Gundam.tk presents Double O Riser. Hey, what's up again, everybody? Robert184 from Gundam.tk. Good to have you here. You've already seen the Master Grade O Riser, and yes, we've been distracted by news of the new Gundam series, Gundam Age, and you can check out lots of videos on my playlist there. But now it's time to check out the parts of the actual Double O Gundam. 4 plates was enough to put together the O Riser, but now, when all the plates are empty, here's the body parts, and you'll notice that there's a separate foot, ankle, hip, waist, chest, backpack, separate shoulders. For the weapons, you've got the GN Sword 3, 2 2s, the shields, and then you're going to get the effect parts for the GN Sword 3, the Sword 2s, and the beam sabers, which are in the waist section. Don't forget to check out the O Riser to see the review of that weapon. I always recommend starting a Ziploc as soon as you start putting together a large kit like this, because you're going to have a lot of extra parts and they will get lost. Specifically, you've got your figure of Saji and of Setsuna down there, and they're standing up form, and you are going to get 2 completely extra sets of manipulators. The thing that's unique about them, even though the thumb moves, these fingers are solid, and you're going to get an extra set so you can do different poses there. You're going to get 2 attachments. This goes from the O Riser to the GN Sword 3 and puts that all on an action base. This is for the Double O Gundam itself. For the Double O Riser in its movie variant, you can put on this sensor bar cover, and then this is going to attach the GN Sword 2s together, Darth Maul style. And unlike the 1/100th, this is going to be used, this is how you attach the GN Sword 2s onto the hips, and then you're going to get a whole bunch of landing gear and gray panels that you would choose one or the other to put on the bottom of the O Riser. Something that's no doubt confusing for new Gundam fans, and something I get asked a lot, is what's the difference between a Master Grade and a non-grade 1/100th, and when I show you the parts here, I think you'll get a really good idea of what the difference is. Starting at the very bottom, a little bit of gray shows down here, and the movable parts on the feet are just there, and this part is going to pivot, and then you could connect this ankle part to that, and when you do that, you're going to be able to get a ridiculous range of motion here on the feet. Before it gets its armor put on, here's a look at the inner frame of the leg, and first of all, you'll notice that this would have been clear parts if this was the perfect grade. It's got a slide mechanism up here and then another bend down below. So in terms of that, you'll notice that this is going to slide through and pull up. This is a separate piece that gets put on, and then when you bend this down, nothing really moves on the leg. A really solid looking leg, and my favorite part of this is just how much gray details that they put on here that stick out. One thing that you have to be careful of, though, is this green lens that when you put it on, don't cut off too much around the edges, because if it's too smooth, it'll just pop out. And it's only being held on here by this white part, which isn't necessarily enough, and every once in a while when you shake that, you can hear it. But in terms of mobility, you can bend that there and bend that down there, and when you do that, you may have noticed that this little part here slides down and then slides up. So little bonuses like that here in the leg. To compare this with the 1/100th, again, you'll just see that there's better lenses that you don't have to paint yourself. The feet just have that extra white on the bottom, and it's mostly when you look at it in the front, you'll just see that these gray parts for the knees, this gray part down there, everything just has a little bit more detail over here. Onto the waist, which like most 00 suits is pretty understated. When you go to the back, you've got a solid gray piece and white on there, and the beam sabers can bend up like this so that Setsuna could reach back, grab them, and pop them off if he chooses. Then you've got for the side armor here, gray stuff on the inside, which is a nice touch, and if you pop this white part off, you'll notice that it's got an extra peg, so you can put that down below, which allows you to put the GN Sword 2s using the attachment onto the side. This front skirt, when you lift it up, can rotate left or right as needed. And inside, when you plug in the hips, you're able to slide this part up and down, and it's independent. You can have the left or right leg up or down as you choose. The waist section of the 1/100th just has a simple ball joint that you pop the legs on, and so I'm not really crazy about taking them off. But if you look inside the side skirts there, yeah, it's just a single piece of white plastic that has nothing to it and nothing on the inside, which is one of the things when you buy a hobby magazine and they take one of these models, the first thing they'll do is fill in all of those things that show. The base attachment on the 1/100th is in the back quarter, whereas on this one, it's directly on the bottom. When you're building the chest in one of the early stages, you're really going to notice just how master grade quality this whole thing is. So the first thing I did that I liked was on the back that you're able to open this up by twisting it off to the side, and then when you pull it down, that's going to reveal the light where you put that through, and you'll notice that there's a hole in the neck, and so the green light is going to come blasting out of here. They do give you the one light and light up the head. but it's the shoulders that are the most impressive thing. First of all, you can move them like this, but when you do that, you can pop the whole shoulder part out like this, and when you do that, if you bend this up, you're able to get a really big range of motion there. If you compare how flat that one is to this one now, and you're able to bring it all the way forward and fairly far to the back. So kudos on that. The neck part is going to bend a little bit, and despite the fact that the light is streaming through, and the waist at the bottom is going to twist this way. Remember, that was a bad thing in 00 Quanta, and it's going to rotate front and back. The 1/100th waist unit actually down here does not rotate at all. This red part is actually built into it, although it does rotate up here on the chest, the blue on the green, on the gray, which I remember a lot of people weren't too pleased about. Here, nothing fancy in terms of the cockpit. If you take that off, you're just going to expose that. You can put a light in there if you wanted to light up the head, but really, with the backpack built right in, it's very, very simple with next to no posability compared to the new Master Grade. Why do I always forget to show this? Well, I don't know, but if you pop this part forward, then you pop up this gray hatch, you're going to have the top of Setsuna's unpainted helmet visible there. And for clarification on the O-Riser, that is the sensor unit, not the cockpit. I just say cockpit because it sure looks like a cockpit. And in the back, when you crack this open, that's where you have a seated King Arthur himself. For the arms, they're different enough from 00 Quanta that I'm somewhat impressed. You do have a gray inner frame there, 3 pieces when you put that together, and then 2 blue pieces on the side and 1 on the top. But for the arm itself, it's got this solid joint there, just a single piece off the B-plate. And for mobility, you can bend the arm that much, which is fairly impressive. And then with the extra wrist bend here on the blue part, you're almost going to get the 180 if you cheat and use the wrists. But right now, I really like the fact that you put in the sticker and the green part that has the writing on it. You still get that 3D sense of depth, which is great. Back here, you could plug in a weapon underneath, which will come into play for the GN Sword 3 on the other side. These I don't think you're going to use, but for the arms themselves, you're able to move the hands here on the manipulator and here, and you're going to get the 3-finger trigger finger split, put a little bit of lining in there, and if you don't lose any fingers, I think this is a really solid arm. At the top of the 1/100th, you'll notice that it's just 2 blue parts just slapped together around a shoulder. Again, 1 piece here. These clear parts, they don't have the stickers underneath, and there's nothing fancy with the build here. You just have a clear piece there, which I've painted green. But the bend mechanism is just as impressive here with the 1/100th, except the wrists don't have that extra bit of movement. They're locked right in there and only rotate. The backpack that holds on the GN drives is very fun to put together, so you're just going to have this for the mount mechanism over here, but it's the fact that they've got all this gray on the inside that because this is going to be really visible because it's the 00 Gundam, it's just the fact that they put in details like that that really make this a Master Grade. So over here you're going to have the mounts for the GN drives themselves. You can put the shield in there, and on the back when you slide this little panel down, that's where you're going to attach the O-Riser. At the bottom here, you've got some details like some gray jets there, but these parts here, they move this much in and out, but they do not move too much up and down. That's about it. And the shoulders, you're going to be able to bend them around this way, but they're not going to come all the way to the back without a little bit of work. But what's intriguing to me is that they have a lock mechanism on the top, and you can see that I've got 1 locked and 1 open. So what happens is when the lock is open, you've got pretty much, you're able to bend this as much as you'd like. But if you bend it up and then you lock it into place, once you've done that, it's not going to come down. Now how well that's going to work once we actually put the riser on remains to be seen. Here's the backpack of the 1/100th. It doesn't have moving jets down there, and its bend mechanism here is also going to go up or down, but it's just on a ball joint here. And on the top, this is also just on a swivel that can pivot just ever so much because it's on a ball joint, and these parts can also rotate around. But the most important thing for me is just look how empty that is on the underside, and because you can usually see him just like this, you're always going to have that little bit of kibble showing that will never be seen on the Master Grade. If you figured it out, then Master Grades come with a lot of parts, and rightfully so. So I'm going to wrap up this part right here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for the rest, where I'll finish these up before you get to see them all put together into a better version of the 00 Gundam. As always, please hit like if you do, and subscribe if you don't want to miss any videos, and hit don't if you don't. And thanks for watching, everybody. Always appreciated. Stay tuned for lots more. Robert 184, gundam.tk. Love it or hate it, you have to say that Trans Am is a more cool color variation than Seed's deactive mode. Yeah, I rushed out to go buy those.